Welcome to Railway Empire 2, releasing on the 25th May 2023 for Windows PC, as well as for various consoles, PlayStation 4 and 5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series 1 and Xbox Series X and S. Made in Germany, the game is developed by Gaming Minds in Gütersloh and published by Calypso in Worms. If you've watched this video, you've gotten a good insight into the game mechanics, the core aspects of the game. You can start your own game without having to spend a lot of time learning the ropes. And you'll get some information. In comparison, how the game is designed compared to its predecessor, the much praised Railway Empire by the gaming press and Steam reviewers. What are the main differences compared to the predecessor? Again, it's a hybrid, a mix between a transport game and a building game. That means you can not only connect your cities with railway tracks. In the golden age of steam locomotives at the beginning of the 19th century, from the beginning of the 19th century up to the beginning of the 20th century and even beyond, you can also supply your cities with goods in such a clever way that more and more citizens want to live there and more goods are unlocked. And it took away even more opportunities for her to transport mail and passengers, to connect additional goods, and to acquire transport revenues. You can play with AI opponents, competitors, or without them. You can try to buy them out or give up on huts. You will. You can operate technology and transport goods on the one hand, and on the other hand also mail and express. You can specialize in either of the two things just as you like. The game really offers a variety of ways to play it. New compared to the previous version is a cooperative multiplayer mode, which works in such a way that up to 4 players can share the management of a railway company. What if some players are missing, or the game starter wants to keep playing alone? No problem, save the game, play solo next time, and invite those players back later. Use it however you like. Compared to its predecessor, where the track layout was already very intuitive, they've taken it up another notch. To my knowledge, when it comes to train games, there are probably no other games with such an intuitive way of laying tracks. The game is definitely good for beginners as well. There are up to 60 different historical steam locomotives in this game. At the start, there's a whole range of maps in North America and Europe. A major change from the predecessor is that the distances are much greater now. That means, for example, you really have a massive North America map that leads from San Francisco across the Rocky Mountains and the plains in the middle of North America all the way to the East Coast. And you can be traveling forever if you take a locomotive from the Pacific to the Atlantic there. The big Europe map is also massive. Great insights, great views while riding along if you want. Unlike before, there is no longer the option or ability to set railway signals manually. This occurs automatically at junctions or when you place switch heads. Initially I was unsure if this would work, but now I'm fully convinced. This relieves the game of tedious micromanagement that doesn't add any more depth, but just creates more clicking work for you. And the game is focused on the essentials, namely the strategic decisions and riding along these beautiful tracks. You can build stations, but only one type is available now. You can expand them to up to 8 tracks. This happens gradually. Whenever you need a new track, you simply add one. There are many special buildings that, unlike in the previous version, no longer have to be placed outside of cities. Warehouses, for example, for transferring goods. All of this now takes place within the stations, and with a modular system you can expand your stations with modules and open up new sources of income there, or simply have the option to transfer goods. And yes, a campaign with 5 missions with varying levels of difficulty, with increasing difficulty. There's a model building mode where you don't have to spend any money on anything. There are a total of 14 scenarios scripted with certain events with special challenges, and a free mode where you can set, on maps like this one for example, which individual challenges you personally want to play. A tutorial can guide you into the game as shown here. It's well designed. All the texts that are there and many other tips and tricks can also be found in-game in a lexicon, in an encyclopedia that's well illustrated, where you can look up everything. New game, campaign, 5 mission scenarios, 14 scenarios model building mode without money, free play. There you can filter at the top. These are all North America maps. This is the huge map of the United States of America, and you can also play parts of it. The individual points represent individual cities. You can choose which city you want to start in and in which era. These are jumps of 10 years that you can make here. If you start later, the cities are already a bit bigger and you have slightly more modern locomotives available. Let's do such a start here as an example. You can choose different characters with a bundle of bonuses and 1 penalty, depending on your play style or what kind of challenge you want. This map offers many settings. Economically, how much money you start with, whether you play with AI competitors, how many there should be, or without them. Whether you can access all areas of the map from the start, or have to spend bonuses to unlock new areas. Whether all cities should already be there, where you can immediately build stations and transport goods, or if there are individual cities on the map that you still need to supply. First deliver goods and then place a station in a proper city to be able to use it economically, plus other minor settings you can adjust. And of course, let's also look at the Europe map, which is the main one here. There are also partial maps here. Great Britain, there's Scandinavia, the French region, there's Northern Italy and Central Italy, there's Germany in the broadest sense, Eastern and Central Europe, and Western Europe. You can start wherever you want. How does Railway Empire 2 work as a building game? For example, let's take a look at Venice on the large map of Europe. Click on the station. There you can see the goods that are in demand, and many of them can be found in the surrounding area. Even without stations, they might already be brought here to a city. You can see if this works successfully by looking at the roads that run here. If you see a road and it leads to a nearby resource area, you know that a basic supply is already in place. You can also click on the resource areas and see how well the goods are already being transported here. If you click on the city and look at the goods, you can see what supplies are currently available in the city. How much is currently being delivered by trains and how much is being demanded in the city per week. There you see a percentage value. How well is the city supplied with this good? That's the overall supply of the city. Of all the goods that are already being demanded, you can see them up here above. At a value of 60% more people move into the city grows, and new goods are unlocked. When certain population thresholds are reached, if the supply coverage is below 40%, there's a problem, then the city shrinks and people move away again. The more thresholds are reached, the more new goods are demanded, and the harder it becomes to keep the citizens happy and maintain city growth. But the more economic opportunities there are for you as well, to bring new goods here or maybe even build new factories in the city. The city starts with a factory where at least one raw material is in demand and a finished product is produced. When thresholds are reached, you can build your factories there at your population thresholds, and for the goods that are now in demand, you can, for example, set up your own factories. They are in your possession and they also generate income for you, so all transport revenues, mail, passengers, goods, and also the profits your factories make flow into your balance sheet. You can also buy well-running raw material businesses outside the city and generate additional profits there as well. But first, let's take a look at the start. How does it begin? A typical game with Railway Empire 2. Our tutorial game takes us to New York City in the year of our Lord 1860 on the huge United States of America map. This is where we started. That means we have to build the first station there and another station nearby. Before you can build the third station, you have to connect the second one to the first. There is demand for basil in New York City. These are goods like grain, wood and corn, things you usually find in the area or have to bring here from farther away. There is demand for finished goods like beer, meat and fabric. We have a factory here that produces fabric from wool near New York City. In the north, Boston conveniently has a meat factory. So here we can transport the clothing, the fabrics and the meat back and forth with a profitable route. Some individual turkeys are still being recommended to us. Connection bonuses. When we connect such businesses, cities or enterprises and have transported their goods once and they arrive in one of our cities, we receive a one-time bonus. This is a startup funding for our company. Relatively, if you want, you can also go into the company at the top and take out bonds in the banking section. High interest rates on loans, everything is possible. You can also buy stocks in the stock market. However, that's a bit of a lottery. It's about how successful, for example, the factories on the map are running. Prices fluctuate here, simulated by the computer. You can speculate with stocks, but it's not a main part of the game. We start here in New York City. We're building our first station here. Where it's green, we can build. Where it's red, we can't. There are combinations of mouse movements and shortcuts. At the bottom, there are tooltips that always show you what's possible here. The first track is always automatically built and attached to the building. Additional tracks that are connected cost $50,000 more. To connect the fourth track, you must also build the second and third, raising the cost to $150,000. As an example, like contour lines, it shows us the best way to build. My tip is to always build parallel along the contour lines. Otherwise, when the trains start at the stations, they first have to overcome steep inclines. Here we start, we place the next station up here in Boston, and here too we follow the contour lines a bit. This is where it goes. Track construction. You can either build completely from one city to another and simply use the game's build suggestion. An example, here you connect to track 2 and up here you also connect to one of the tracks, whichever way makes the most sense to you. That's some space for connecting freight facilities nearby. The program suggests something to us. Attention, that's extremely expensive. We're being offered the best, coolest and most direct route with minimal inclines. However, those usually have very high tunnel and bridge costs. We're not going to do that. We could either place individual points on here and move them around. We could also move them up and down in height and fiddle around a bit until we get something good, or alternatively, delete the route. Start the second thing and do it manually. I think that's also the nicest way to explain it. We go up here once and along here once. Two things to consider: the maximum speed the locomotives can handle and the incline they have to manage. The maximum speed usually depends on how tight the curves are that you have to take and the percentage values of the incline. It depends on how steep the inclines are that you have to deal with. We aim to build with minimal restrictions. 100 kilometers per hour on a short distance, that's not a big deal. We probably won't even reach that speed anyway. Over a huge distance, that would be more extreme. We can move the mouse wheel below and hold down the pen button to change the height differences here. Then we'll go down here, up there. Yes, I'd like that. It works without a tunnel up front. Now we'll connect the second track here. We could build a bridge. Bridges are expensive. Let's set another point, move this back and forth a bit, or we can move the point a little over here. We can also adjust the elevation differences there more. Of course, 52 kilometers per hour is awkward. That's better. We can do it this way. Overall, it looks pretty good. Let's work on this one and build it now. We're being offered a parallel track, which we can build later too. Parallel tracks are always cheaper to build than if you build them far apart somewhere else. Much cheaper. That's a convenience feature, to immediately build a parallel track right after constructing a connection. I'm going to use this feature now for convenience. Here's what we'll do now. We're about to do our first lap. And start with an express route for mail and passengers. Mail and passengers. We'll set up the train route here. We'll choose an express route, which will only carry mail and passengers. The faster the transport and the greater the distance between the two stations, the higher the profits we get. Unlike pure freight, raw materials, or finished goods, There, it doesn't matter how far the distance is or how long it took, you always get the same freight revenue. We say, we would like to start down here, we want to get going up here. And now there's just one special feature. The train either selects a track manually or we set a waypoint. We want express trains to start their route undisturbed by the freight trains, so we set them up separately. We reserved this track here for express. We say please go via the waypoint here, pull up here once, then we start up top and we arrive up front here. And on the same route, where possible, it goes back down again. From Boston, it automatically moves to New York City. After finishing the route, it starts again up there. We click Select Locomotive, and the best available express locomotive is shown based on what's displayed at the back. One train is enough, confirm, then it can start. There are 3 game speeds: paused, normal, and triple speed. You can always pause or unpause the game using the spacebar. Here we go. There are 2 types. How can we ride along? Either with the info screen here on the right, giving us a generous view of the locomotive, or alternatively, we can click on Ride Along here. Then we can drive from this perspective, change the view with the mouse, look around everywhere, and ride along. What I would like now, let's let it keep going. I would like to add more goods. There's demand in New York City. There's demand in New York City, a lot of staple foods and many other finished goods, and they're nearby. Wood, corn, grain, wool for the textile factory, all of that should be available here. Cloth is right up front with a connection bonus that's being promised to us, and wood is right next to it. Very convenient. With some luck, we can connect both to the same station. We'll check the station up here with contour lines, making sure that you don't go in or out too steeply. Maybe we can also connect the grain up there. I'm up here. Turn it so that the first track is practically right next to the building for convenience. We want to start and drive out carefully. Both are connected. Make a connection down to New York City here. That's freight. Elevation changes matter more than speed since we're descending the mountain. Loaded trains will descend quickly so we can handle a large elevation change. It's really not that bad. The key is they don't slow down with loaded trains, then head back up the mountain. Up here we go once, then drive onto the reserved track right in here at the front. Curves, elevation changes, everything's okay, so we can get started right away. Then we'll keep building upwards up here. We want to go up here then higher. To the station that we'll put back here where we can pick up grain. Here we start, adjusting the elevation differences as much as possible. We'll begin up front here. This is where it goes, a gentle curve around it, carefully going into the slope. A connection, a tunnel. I'd like to avoid that if possible, since tunnel costs are exorbitant. Pull it out a bit here, everything fits, but up here we have something that won't work. We're too close to a city here. We need to move 1 point slightly. That's it, build it this way. Now we can start here in the front with transporting grain and later take wood and wool with us. There are different ways to do this. I want to show you one so you can get to know it too. We're going into the new train line and into the supreme discipline, namely manually setting up a station route. Click on the first station up here. We want the grain to be picked up here as much as possible. At minimum, there should always be one wagon. We want to avoid empty runs, so we could click here to stop and try to add goods. Then of course the top shouldn't be quite so full. then bring the rest over here, then return empty, and again as an alternative, transport grain from here to the front, then click on New York City once and set it up, so that nothing should be taken along, meaning that the grain really should be delivered here, that it should be taken out. We leave empty-handed, then return here. Of course, Collins. We don't need to know the exact amounts of wood and wool needed or in demand. That's why we're going to cheat a little and say please make sure there are at least 2 wood and 2 wool. We'll use wildcards for the rest. One of these can be used, at least 1 wagon should be included, confirm once, and then arrive back here at the front. Please don't take anything in New York City. And then we start again at the top and begin at Davis stop. We use a freight locomotive for that. Freight locomotives don't have such a great top speed, especially the slower ones, but they have a lot of pulling power. That's why you should generally use them for freight routes. And express locomotives are for transporting mail and passengers, where speed matters. There are also so-called mixed locomotives, which you can use, for example, on routes where you carry both express goods and freight as a compromise, or on routes where you transport mail and passengers. But because the terrain is difficult and very hilly, you need a decent train performance there. Remember, the locomotives must still make progress. Mail and passenger cars are lighter than freight locomotives, which means that an express train can also make sense, an express locomotive on hilly routes. Just give it a try. We'll take the best freight locomotive here. That's it, confirm this one. 1 train is enough, we'll start up here now. We'll take a quick ride here. Now we'll make sure that the grain, the wool and the wood are brought up. Grain and wood are goods that are also in demand in the other city. Passengers always transfer automatically at a station, but freight goods do not. Let's take a look at how this works. Let's go up to the front here. We've built a double track here. If you click on a track up here, you can see which trains are running on it. This is the express route. On the second track next to it, no one is running yet. And that's where we'll set up our cargo route now. And so I can demonstrate to you how this works. We'll use switch heads and an up and down track. That means I'll build a second parallel track down here. It goes along here. Watch the mouse cursor. Up to here in the front, and you can see a double track at the mouse cursor. That means we've built it so that it's a complete railway, all parallel tracks. You can also see these cheap ones as a number on the right. We'll build over here and then go this way, then we'll connect them here once and go in up front. And now, once we've built that, you'll see right away we're doing it as... That's the ride from bottom to top, and that's the ride back. Hold down the Alt key, then you can set it like this. You can set it to be drivable on both sides, up or down. Press the Alt key again. You can see these signals are created automatically. The locomotive driver always watches the signals. He always looks out the window on the right side. If there's a signal there, he pays attention to it. If he looks out to the left, he doesn't pay attention to those. And that simply means you only drive in here when you're coming from below, if everything is okay. Now we're going into track construction, and now we're going to get a switch head. Place it. We don't need it down here, we'll place it up front because it's a bit different here. We both come in down here. And so that the trains can actually turn around since they arrive on different tracks. At the bottom we'll put a set of switches here. You can mark it so that it covers all the tracks. That includes the express line, but we don't need it. We'll just use the 2 on the right. Once we've set this up, it ensures that the trains coming in at the top can turn around here however they want and then head back on the other track. You can do the craziest things with switch heads. Just give it a try. Now let's make ours. We haven't built a module in New York City yet. Next, let's build a warehouse here, then goods can be transferred here. We'll build it and we'll place it inside the warehouse. so that the raw materials transported from Lübeck on the left, which we know are also in demand up here in Boston, can be transferred here to a cargo route. And it's wood up here in front, and it's grain. Wood and grain are goods that are in demand up in Boston. Click on the city, you can check that at the top. Wood is in demand, grain too, but not wool, because that's just a raw material for the clothing finish down below, so the clothing down here. You don't have to click on that, it's logical, it's not being brought in from another route. Let's go to the station, to the location, to the warehouse symbol. Activate the grain and wood. You can set up to 6 of these goods here. Then we'll go back out. The goods are temporarily stored here, and the trains that start from here automatically bring them here as well. We're building a route, another new train line, and now I'll show you the third method, what you can do, a freight route. It should start down here. We'd like these 2 tracks up front to be used, and I want to show you that 2 trains can run here as well. We click here on the waypoint, it should be set here, and then we click up here. Since no other route is available, the waypoint is automatically set for the return trip, creating a path back here because they can't access that track. That wasn't connected by a switch button. In New York City, the train then arrives automatically. The symbols above indicate what can be transferred, such as grain and wood. Also cloth since it's shipped here, and meat since it's shipped up there. I would like We'll go back down and confirm it, then select a freight locomotive. I'll say for demonstration purposes, we'll put 2 trains on the track. The first train starts up here. The second will only start automatically when it thinks the distance between the trains is reasonable. We can avoid traffic if we leave now, but we still have one thing to finish. There are green bars here, blue, yellow and black. The green one is the health points of a locomotive. Blue, yellow and black stand for the operating materials. Water, sand. Sand is mainly needed on hilly routes, and oil for stops. And the green one is the green health bar again, that can only be replenished at the stations themselves. All the routes we've set up pass through New York City, so we're building a maintenance depot here. And all the trains that need it will automatically start here and replenish their health points. You can set at what percentage of health points this should happen. 60%, 70%, whatever you want. It changes in 10% increments, just click here. Then this setting will be applied to all maintenance depots everywhere. The other things, on the other hand, are the operating supplies. They are replenished along the route at supply towers when necessary. For that, go to track construction, then to railway buildings, and then to the supply towers. We place one so that both can be connected here, so all trains can be supplied here, and we place another one here along the route. For example, up here at the front or wherever else. Now the route is easy to travel, we can make our first profits, and we can say that this will really pay off. A lot of wool is transported from here, always here. We can easily select the lands and see its current, recently low utilization. We can't reach a potentially higher price anymore, even now. We can also check this here. The utilization here is low, for next to nothing. If we buy the timber business and ensure proper wood transport, we'll gain extra profit. Profits from transporting the goods, and also profits because we make a small cut here in the factories and raw material businesses. One thing is still missing. You can also expand the stations further later on. When the thresholds are reached here and new goods are in demand, you can build more factories here. You can also build more city buildings later. They're available here, but you must meet specific thresholds. Immigration building. A wanderer will always come here. Library. A bonus to demand generation. People are being deceived. They would be supplied with 10% more goods, so new goods can be requested earlier. There are more city buildings that you can build here. So that wasn't everything, but at least the most important things about the Railway Empire 2 playlist up in the corner, with lots of Let's Plays on different maps. If you want to pick up advanced tips and tricks, feel free to check it out there. A charming game, dreamlike departures, beautiful views of the landscape, smart changes compared to its predecessor, huge maps, and an epic gaming experience. I highly recommend the game. Enjoy playing.